turned to the mayor of the city of Manchester and pointed out that while other cities have such great and important institutions as like Cooperstown, New York, has Hall of Fame of baseball, and Springfield has the Hall of Fame of basketball, why is there no major national shrine for the scientists and engineers and inventors that really do create the standard of living we've all come to expect is a birthright? And why doesn't Manchester become that place and become the home of a thing called FIRST? And I have to tell you, now it seems like such an intuitively obvious good idea that everybody latches onto it. And now that it looks like it's going to succeed at a national level and certainly help the local economy, we've got lots of supporters. But 6 years ago, the mayor of this city was about the only political person I knew with the courage to go out and say that our little city really could grab onto this thing and give it some roots. So once again, for the 6th consecutive year, I'd like to introduce the mayor of Manchester to kick this thing off.
Thank you very much, and I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you to see the finals out at Epcot, because it's just a marvelous, marvelous program. And I want to compliment all of the companies that participate in this program, because it's a wonderful thing. And you know, all of the young people that are here, the young ladies and gentlemen, you'll have an idea somewhere that is going to have an impact somewhere in this world. And it'll be as a result of some of the things that have occurred here with the FIRST competition. So I'm so pleased and proud to be a part of this, and having been a part of it from its very beginning, and working with Dean. I wish we had 5 more Dean Kamens here, and you probably wish you had one in your communities too. But it's really wonderful. You know, next year, when those of you that will be here for the 7th time, next year the Science and Technology Museum will be open in our mid-yard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know how to break the news to this guy, but I think the reason that it's the #1 city to work from home is because you haven't solved the parking problem downtown. I guess the first thing I want to do is thank everybody for showing up and helping me inaugurate my new and humble abode in Bedford last night. It was really a trick, because I figured if I could get that engine half built and half assembled and half working, at least some kinematic motion of those flywheels by last night, you guys are going to have to come back next year to see it when it's running as a full closed-cycle Stirling engine. And the only way you get to come back is bring another team. But next year we'll have the place a little more finished, and hopefully we'll see all of you, and each of you will bring a friend and continue to grow. I guess, so that I'll be able to go home again tonight and have nearly as much fun as last night, I'll start by thanking Casey, who most of you met, but she's responsible for making that cozy little party work so well. And Kate Strauss, who always helps to make these events work well. The first, dear sirs, the Cleveland Plain Dealer newspaper writes of East Tech Technical High School, once the pride of the Cleveland Public Schools, with distinguished graduates such as Jesse Owens, as, quote, the miracle on East 55th Street. Just 5 years ago, East Tech, an urban high school located in the center of Cleveland's most impoverished housing projects, was slated for closing. The enrollment had dropped to 900. The daily student absentee rate exceeded 34%. The school had a dropout rate of 50%, and only 43% could pass the state proficiency test. This was the low ebb of a number of events that happened, and then a number of events that happened changed the academic stories and future of these students. A new dynamic principle said yes when an engineer from NASA Lewis Research Center introduced the FIRST program to the school. The change was not apparent in the beginning, but But soon NASA engineers and 15 students were daily working and having fun with math and science as they built their competitive robot. Soon the first robot program became the activity of choice. Other students for the first time began going regularly to their math and science classes. They just had to find out what was going on and what was the process of this robot named Tech Force. Each day after school, the first student engineering team would divide into their subgroups and build their champion robot. Hesitant in the beginning, the Cleveland news media began to cover the story. Were these inner city kids good enough and smart enough to compete in a national competition in Orlando? At the competition, the East Tech students, not sure of their own ability, soon won match after match and were in first place. A phone call went back to East Tech. The principal then announced over the PA system the good news. East Tech is doing well and is presently in first place. Students in the classroom cheered Tech Force for 5 minutes. They were so proud that their classmates had excelled at the first competition. The East Tech students competed at Epcot, and the students cheering in the classroom made the 6 o'clock local news. The first team proudly finished 9th out of 150 teams. The East Tech first team, student engineering team, now has 40 members. Students are running to hit the books in all their classes to earn the 3.0 GPA necessary to qualify for the team. Presently, more students try out for the first team than for football and basketball combined. Students are transferring into East Tech from all over the city, and some are even coming in from the suburbs. Our enrollment is now 1,400. We have become the science and engineering magnet school for the district. Our attendance rate is 82% and tops for the high school district. 71% of our students passed their state proficiency this year. Our 12 graduates of the first program are all enrolled in a 4-year engineering program at the university level. I'll skip some more details and get to the last slide. East Tech is now the lighthouse for math and science in the Cleveland School District. A miracle is taking place on East 55th Street, and it begins with first. If this letter was an anomaly, if it was the only one we got, if this school was somehow an aberration, I wouldn't bother reading the letter, and I probably wouldn't be continuing to put in this kind of effort. But the fact is, almost everybody involved in first, the professionals, the engineers, the teachers, come away with the same kinds of stories in one scale or another. The concept that kids need to see what engineering is really about, and they need to make decisions early about what's important to spend their time on, is just a reality that we are helping to promote. And the effect is pretty much the same for every kid that we end up involving. And I think all of you should know that this is a likely result. I don't know how many different ways to try to continue to say it. What this organization is about is not education per se. I heard a lot of people, even last night, and I think they mean well, and I understand what you're saying, and there needs to be a balance, but I heard people saying, well, sure, that other team did great, but that's because the engineers did all the work. The kids didn't build the robot. I have to tell you, first is not an educational institution. It's okay if the kids build a whole robot. It's okay if they don't touch it. First ought to be to education what the NFL or the World Series is to Little League. I mean, just do the mental experiment in which there is no professional football. There is no Super Bowl. Do you think that little kids at the ages of 6, 7, and 8 are going to get up and spend hours exercising and running and striving to be better and better at what would become a cardiovascular exercise routine of running up and down the field? Imagine How many kids would spend those kinds of hours practicing basketball if there was no Michael Jordan? The harsh reality is this country doesn't have an NCAA of smarts, an Olympic committee of brains. We don't have people as well known as Michael Jordan for doing little things like inventing CAT scanners or curing diseases, putting men on the moon. You and your companies are those people, but we have a culture that has gone awry. The only people we celebrate are sports figures, entertainers, and in a democracy, you get what you celebrate. What this country really needs is a change in its culture. You can't expect kids to get out of high school and become competent citizens, good employees of your companies so that we can remain competitive, have a high standard of living, become affluent consumers of the products you make. You can't expect them to get to 18 or 19 years old and decide, now I'm going to become capable of creating wealth and adding value. It's too late. Maybe 50 years ago it wasn't too late. You could grab a drill press handle or answer a phone. But we're in an unusual time. There's no way left without adding great intellectual value that you can add almost any value. The world's too competitive. There's a few billion people out there willing to do the menial jobs in other labor markets. It's easy to move funds and goods to the lowest common denominator for manufacturing. If this country is going to continue to sustain itself as the one with the highest standard of living, the best health care, the best in the world, all of its citizens have to be able to participate in creating the wealth and not being a drain. And yet, you all know that nobody gets to 17 and says, I think I'll take up basketball or football, I'll go to college and do sports. If you haven't mastered it by 17 or 18, you're all done. And trust me, developing analytic skills and the basics, whether it's geometry, causality, understanding determinism of nature, kids have to start to understand that earlier and earlier. And what they need is the desire to do that. They need to understand that it is doable. You know, why do they have all sports heroes? You figure it out. Turn on television right now, or any time of the day or night. The great American lie is that sports figures, they're young, they're attractive, they're healthy, they make $1 million a week. You sit there and you wonder why these inner city kids, we don't live in the Leave It to Beaver generation. We don't live in a place where kids know, yeah, that's fun to do that, but I haven't got as much chance to make money as a professional athlete as I do winning the state lottery. Those are the facts. You have a greater chance of winning the state lottery. Probably most of you professionals and around professionals don't really live daily with the concept and the reality that there are a lot of kids that have never met an engineer, never met a scientist. They understand what Michael Jordan does. Dribbles, he throws. They believe that they get better at that by working at it, and they believe they can do that. They can understand it. It's attractive to them, and they put effort into it. This whole organization is there to compete for the minds and for the time. We're trying to compete with the distractions that have taken over the American culture, and we're trying to give kids some idea of what's important and give them some opportunity to spend some of their time trying to develop a skill set that will allow them to be successful and productive. This country spends $600 billion a year on education. Nobody's going to incrementally spend a lot more than that. The irony is most of the large companies here give away more scholarship, and they give it away out of their profits every year than the entire profits of the NFL, the ABA. But to most inner city kids, to most kids that don't have professional people around them all the time, they don't know it, they don't access it, they don't believe it, and they spend some critical years of their life, wasting their time on almost hopelessly difficult dreams. And the premise at first was, if the teachers, some of whom hopefully are here today, had students show up in school as enthusiastic to learning as they do show up with the enthusiasm and the drive to get on a varsity sports team, the rest of it would follow. And there is no organization whose total focus is creating demand in kids. Our culture creates it for these other things. But again, if you want little kids to play sports, you don't show little kids, you show them the best there is. Well, where is it? Where are the best scientists, engineers, technology people? I'm looking at them. And how do we get those people to work, not pushing into schools, adopting schools, confrontational with teachers, complaining that our schools aren't working? Anybody that's visited any city school lately, you know why they're not working. We're not only asking the teachers to teach, they got to do things like make sure there aren't guns in the classroom, drugs in the classroom. The culture doesn't value the educational institution. I mean, it's the gym teacher, the football coach isn't there to inspire these kids to put in the work. That's a given. Our culture does that for them. All they have to do is deal with the supply side of the problem, and it works. Whether it's an affluent school or an inner city school, in fact, even more so, because they think it's the way out. The inner city schools produce the great athletes. The trouble is the world only needs a few hundred of them a year. And what do all the rest of them do? So the point at first is really to do for important things what our culture has done for so many unimportant things. And the way our culture does is it makes superheroes out of unimportant things. I mean, I love sports. You also have my own baseball field in my backyard. I have a tennis court and baseball. But it's because it's fun. It's a pastime. It has to be in its appropriate place. The Super Bowl shouldn't bring this country to its knees in January, and nobody knows who's winning the race to the superconductor, the room temperature superconductor. Again, the point at first is to create and do for intellectual, technical things what the Shaquille O'Neals and the Michael Jordan do for unimportant things. And to give kids an opportunity to see real role models, real heroes, not celebrities, but real heroes, that they can finish up this 6 weeks and say, I can do that. I want to learn those things. I'll put effort into that. I want to be like you people. And it literally is the only organization that I know of that's trying to do that. One of the problems is we live in a media age, and only things that happen on a national scale work. You know, when science fairs happen, it's the plastic paramecium on the bridge table in the basement next to the gym. Then they go home and flip on the Super Bowl. If we did this event and the winners didn't go to Disneyland, if we did this event and there was no Super Bowl for these kids to think about, if it wasn't really competitive, if they weren't watching the world's best technology people the way they watch Shaquille, it wouldn't have an impact. So I know it's expensive on a per-student basis that you touch to say, why do they have to build it there and fly over here or fly over there? The point is, not even the giant companies individually, all of whom have great philanthropy programs, can impact these kids because they're competing with things that have a national scope. But when you put all these giant companies together, your companies, and allow this thing to develop the same kind of scale as these distractions that kids see, the hope is those kids will work on it, the kids around them will see it, the infrastructure, which we're now seeing starting to develop, will build around the country. These kinds of stories will happen more, and the result will be a change in the culture of the United States, which, if it doesn't happen fairly soon, will become a banana republic with very few people that have the power to create incredible wealth. I mean, we have an unstable situation. Those people that really understand technology, computers, play on the net, can create biotech solutions to change the human genome, those people will have unbelievable power. The trouble is, in a democracy, everybody gets one vote. And in a democracy, which I gotta tell you, I think is the best and only way to go, particularly in a capitalistic one, which I'm a dyed-in-the-wool capitalist, the only way to go. But the fact is that bears a responsibility. They're the best, but they're the most inefficient, because they require not that a few smart people run the place. They require that at least 51% of the people can separate fact from nonsense, can make appropriate, intelligent, rational decisions. It is up to you people, because the sports figures are not going to turn these kids around, spending that 10 years from 6 to 16 doing the right things. They need to do that. It's fun to spend a little time on unimportant things. That's why it's fun, because they're unimportant. But there are important things they have to do, and we're making them attractive and fun as well. I mean, the alternative, by the way, is even at that small group of bright kids, an ever-growing proportion of them are going to law school. Think about that. The fact is, if FIRST does things right, we really will have an organization. You are the Olympic Committee of Smarts. You are, each of you, the Michael Jordan that the kids actually can meet and actually can emulate and can get some sense of what's possible, what's really possible for them. And making it attractive enough to get their attention away from that stuff is what we're trying to do. And this is a long way of saying to you, so if you think that the goal of this is another soapbox derby and you got to make sure the kids did this and that, you're not going to get their attention. Again, imagine them having to learn to spend 10 years learning to play football without ever having seen professionals do it. You're kidding yourselves. You don't have to go into these schools and see whether they got a hot glue gun and rubber bands. You can bring them out to your factories and let them see what it's like to use a 5-axis CNC laser cutting wire reading machine. Let them see what real analytic capability can do for you when you're trying to solve a design problem. You are here, and as the name says, FIRST, for inspiration and recognition of science and technology. We're not asking you to be boastful. We're not asking you to run around and say how great you are. You don't have to. Just go about your business, but let kids in. Let them see it. Let them understand what power there is in knowledge and what power there is in being creative. And maybe they'll still not know the name of the guy that invented the CAT scanner, or the guy that did something that is much more important to their standard of living, the guy that kicked the ball 62 yards. But they'll know something more important than that. They'll know that they can do this. They've seen real people do it. They've seen scientists on all old, antisocial, white males with German accents that are bent and decrepit. But they'll see science, engineering, and technicians as people that are enthusiastic about what they do. You picked a profession that is the only one that creates wealth. Every once in a while, we keep a little bit from ending up in the hands of the lawyers and the MBAs and junk bond dealers, but we may not keep it all, but we create it all. The kids have to know that. From the first human that figured out how to roll a log or start a fire till today, the standard of living of every culture on this planet has been determined by the technical competence of its people. All over the globe right now, everybody's breathing the same air. Why are some people in unbelievable poverty and some people not? Because they've conquered through technology and figured out how to master the resources around them. They turn worthless things, a lump of silicon, into a microprocessor, a pile of chemicals into a cure for cancer. Kids don't understand that, and you have to show them that. I mean, I guess what I really think makes America great is It isn't the politics, the government, that ever really do much in this country. You know, it's interesting, the great debate on education. One party, nameless party. We need more money for education, we need more programs, we need more everything. Then you look at the fact that it's already more than 50% of everybody's local taxes, that most major cities have unbelievably high dropout rates, and we're ranked 17th in the world in math and science. I'm not sure that putting a few more incremental dollars into a system that isn't being used by these kids because they're distracted away from it is going to help. More on the supply side may not be the obvious answer. Then there's the other party. Too many programs, too much aid, too much this, too much entitlement. So this other nameless party thinks, here we've got this failing system. We're 17th in the world. We've got undernourished people. Let's take away some of their food. That isn't going to help either. What we need is to efficiently use all the resources that we have in our educational system. We owe it to the teachers to deliver students that are enthusiastic. And in America, the government can't do that, thank God. The government in this country is not involved in creating its heroes and creating what kids aspire to do. And this is a free country. Again, that's the good news. I said the bad news is the inefficiency of democracy. The bad news is kids are free. They can spend the first 15 years of their life on unimportant things, unimportant ideas, dribbling, jumping, doing nothing. You have to change that, and I hope you will. As usual, I can count on Woody to point out the most important things. I now have a really neat opportunity to do something. Introduce our new president. A couple of years ago, one of our major sponsors, people that bring us the New Jersey Regional, Johnson & Johnson, said to me, their chairman said to me, Dean, delegate or disintegrate. You really are going to have an unbelievable growth for this organization because what you're doing works, but you need to have organization around you. He offered to pay for a search to find us somebody to run this organization. They spent a lot of time and a lot of money, and they sent me a lot of candidates, all of whom were very prestigious retired executives who would now come and run our nonprofit philanthropy. And with great concern that I would both offend a major sponsor and do something which is alien to my being, turn down something coming for free, I went back to J&J and said, I don't want any of these people. They think that education, they think that inspiration, they think that giving kids the right idea about life is philanthropy. And I think it's an investment. And I think they'll run this the way all the great philanthropies are run, but that's not what we need. And so we didn't take any of their people. But they listened to my concern. And the head of technology of that company called me a year ago and said, Dean, I've got somebody for you. It's not an old retired executive. He's a national hero. He's somebody the kids will certainly want to meet and emulate. He's an astronaut. He's not only an astronaut, he was the commander of one of the shuttle flights. He's also obviously got great management and organizational skills because he's running a major multi-billion-dollar program for NASA. And I think if we can show him what we're doing and convince him of its importance, we may get him. He also pointed out he wouldn't be cheap. And once again, I pointed out that J&J should help us. He came to visit me, and we spent a very interesting evening. And at one point during the evening, he said to me, you know, this isn't the organization that should be walking around with a cup. These companies need us more than we need them. This country needs us. It needs this institution. It needs something to pull together all of you people. it seemed to me he gets it. So I went back to J&J and said, let's get this guy. And again, I have heard it said before that individuals create, but institutions sustain. And I have tried to create something here, but I really do believe that by the year 2000, we could be the institution that has more impact on the way kids think than anything this country's ever seen. And I think the ideas will always be important, but the delivery, the organization, the fact that we need to build first into something that can deliver on the vision and the promise we're creating requires the kind of leadership and organizational skills that aren't what you get from somebody who's retired. I don't intend to leave. I don't intend to disappear. I will continue to push it every way I can for the new and different kinds of programs that we'd like to have. But I believe that it is time to have a well-run organization that can deliver to you the services, the programs in a way that when we continue to grow at the nearly 60% compound rate we've been growing for 6 years, that we won't reach a ceiling. I am confident, he's only been here for 6 or 7 months, but I am confident that Andrew Allen is the guy that can take us from where we are to where we want to be. And he's already started building an organization to do that. And I hope that you will give him all the support that you can, and that you will help us by this time next year have at least twice as many teams as we have now, at least twice as many regionals as we have now. You will hopefully hear from him some of our more aggressive plans, including our Lego League for middle schools, our plans to do major programs with Disney, independent of the finals at Epcot. And with your support, and hopefully with his ability to put an organization together, first will not be measured against science fairs and national spelling bees. We will be measured against the impact of the Olympics, and that will be a terrific thing. Andy Allen.
Thank you very much. I know that everyone is anxious to see that drake fall over in the other room, but we're going to make you stay here a little while longer. We just want to keep building up that anticipation for you. I do have a few things to say first. About a year ago, almost a year ago, I decided I was going to leave NASA. Figured I'd been at the blackjack table long enough, and it was time to cash in my chips. And I wanted to do something different. I wasn't sure what. And a gentleman from Johnson & Johnson, who was on my advisory committee for Space Station, came up and said, I'd like you to go up and meet a gentleman named Dean Kamen. You might have known him at the time. So I came up, met Dean. It was February. No, it wasn't. It was March. And came up here in New Hampshire. It was beautiful. It was green. The snow was gone. And so I was lured in. I met Dean. We had a great time. Took me over to his house, which was in the process at the time. So would you come back and come up to Chicago and look at a regional? He said, sure. So I did. I liked it. I thought it was great. And he came back, and another conversation, would you come to Epcot and watch a regional? Or watch the Nationals and be a judge? I said, sure. And I did. And I'd have to say that Epcot is where I really got hooked. And the thing that really got me going was the fact that of all the programs I've ever seen. I think I've seen hundreds of science programs. I'd never seen one that had gotten so many kids so fired up that weren't what I would call already science interested when they got started. I mean, so to me it was the magic of what we're really trying to do and what we're really trying to change with the youth. A lot of things go through your head when you're laying on your back for a couple hours and this countdown clock keeps ticking. And up until about 9 minutes to liftoff, you're really not all that busy. You're just kind of, especially if you're the commander, you're the first one in there about 2.5 hours. And you got a lot of time to think while they're trying to strap everybody else. And of course, one of the thoughts you think about is, I hope I don't screw anything up and embarrass myself on CNN. Another thing you think is, I hope all these people that were touching this rocket ship did their jobs right. And one of the other conclusions that comes to your mind, at least that came to my mind, was, you know, it really doesn't take a lot of intelligence to get strapped into this rocket. As a matter of fact, some people would say it takes no intelligence to get strapped. But the real key is the people that make it work. When you watch that liftoff, when you watch all the things that happen, when it all happens the way it happens, it's always an adventure. Not everything goes right. There's a lot of flexibility. There's tons and tons of training. It's intense, it's stressful, but you get to come back and you tell everybody a story, and you realize that the people a whole lot smarter than me are the ones that made it work. They don't get the coverage, they don't get their faces on TV as much, but they're really the guts, they're really the bread and butter, and they're really the ones that make it work. And to add on something else that Dean had talked about, I just want to throw out some of my thanks there too, because no matter how much Dean can be emotionally involved and have the strength of the feelings that he has, no matter how long he will stand up here and speak in front of an audience, and no matter how many ideas I can ever come up with, or how many different ways of doing business that we can figure out what we're going to do, none of it's going to amount to anything unless you all that are sitting here in this room make it work. I mean, you are where the rubber meets the road. I mean, you're where the kids are going to find that inspiration. And you're where the kids are going to see the role models that they really need to be seen. I mean, we are what we celebrate. If we don't celebrate science, then the kids aren't going to understand science, and they're not going to think science is cool. And that's what we want to do. We want science to be celebrated. We want the kids to think science is cool. Laura London, who's audited us down here, told me that, you know, the kids reach a level where this is cool, first is cool. And as soon as you hit that level, it's magical. The floodgates open. The young kids want to be like the big kids. And you can just build on that. The disinterested will get interested. And eventually we'll have McDonald's and Coca-Cola and companies like that talking about first. Maybe not quite as much, but almost as much as they're talking about some of the other things they talk about, because we want them to celebrate what we're about. I think first is very unique. It's got more capability than I think I even imagined when I first got on board here. It's got so much to offer. We're going to go ahead and take it on, and we're going to go ahead and get ourselves moving out. It's growing, and it's just going to keep getting bigger. There's a lot of new faces around. The staff has grown. There's more to come. We're getting ourselves postured for what I hope will be a very aggressive, but very complete and very successful growth. We're growing, we're maturing, but one of the most important things is we don't want to forget our roots and what we're all about. And we're all about getting kids inspired. We want to see this country celebrate science, and we want to see the kids think that science is cool. We want them to dream of being technology heroes, like they dream of doing some of the things that they see on TV, which is some of the athletics. And I was a jock in high school, and I admit it. And sometimes Dean and I have interesting conversations about athletes and stuff, and being an athlete is good. But one of the things I've seen first do, and one of the things that caught me on at Epcot, was the fact that some of the things that a teenager feels when you're standing up there on the stage at a pep rally at school, those kinds of emotions, those kinds of loyalties, those kinds of intensities or what the first kids are feeling when they're up there at Epcot, or at the regionals, when they're up there competing. We're going to do some things in '98 that are going to be a little bit different than what we've done in the past. One of them is going to be, we're going to do 5 regionals in 3 weekends, which is going to be a little bit tough. So we'll be doing a couple regionals, 2 weekends, we'll be doing 2 regionals at the same time. So we're going to have to divide our forces a little bit and make it a little less exciting as we continue to grow the regionals. Some of the regionals have gotten so big that we're looking at a population problem of having too many people coming in, especially on that Saturday morning. So there'll be some things that we're having to look at that all of us are going to have to address. And most importantly, we're trying to build ourselves up for what might be a pretty good ride in '99 for our growth. We've had over 200 teams this year. If we do '98 right, there's no reason why we won't have 1,000 teams in '99 and just keep on growing from there. Dean told me when I came on board he wanted 2,000 teams in 2000. I said, well, are you sure? He said, yeah. He said, I want you to choose to do it. Not because you have to do it, because I want you to choose to do it. And we are. And we can. But it's not going to be easy, but I think we can get there. I think we're fully capable of being there. And the way we're going to get there is we're going to spread the word. This year, more than any time else, we need to celebrate what you all are doing out there with the young folks that you're doing them with. Dean read you the one story about East Tech High School. Are East Tech High School folks out here anywhere? All right. Well, thank you all very much. Jerome Sepulveda sent me that letter, and I decided to advertise it a little bit because I think it's just an absolutely fantastic story. And there's a lot of those stories out there. I've heard them. I talked about a bunch of them last night. I've heard from a lot of people before. I've seen older letters. I need to see more. So anybody that's got them, keep them coming in, because what we need to do is capitalize on the young folks and what we're doing out there for the young folks and how we're changing lives. I mean, there's a lot of lives that are being changed out there. Lives that are changing in a way that's worthy of any talk show or any attention that anybody else in this country gets. But whether the impact is on the school or seeable or viewable, but whatever the presentation is, no more than that, because we want the judges to be able to read them all. And if each of them are an hour, they're not going to get to all the judges in time, and they're going to have to cut corners to make it all work. So it also gives us a process where we can bring them in, and we can look at them, and we can get the word back out to you about what we thought, and most of it's going to be relative to what we saw from some of the other teams. But it's going to be a great year. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm very excited about it, and I know you all are very excited about it.
I understand what's happening. I know. So we're going to do this fast. I'm going to run in hyperdrive. A lot of my comments are directed toward the whole teams, because lots of you have video, and a lot of it is directed at the new folks here. Since Dean has talked about kind of the big broad picture and Andy has taken us off into the future, I'm going to go through some layers that start with some societal stuff and get down to not quite brass tacks, but fairly close, and get closer and closer to the stuff that really matters today. But it is very important that we get an overview. Last year I used this quote at the end. I want to open. I love Rumi. My wife found that poet some time ago, and we've been reading Rumi. Trust God, we have to have the right overview, but we've also got to get the details right. So we're going to start at the trust God level, and we're going to move through some of the details. As several people have said, growing up is really hard. This is not going to be an easy process. It's very important as we make first work and never lose sight of it, because if we get too big, I really do want to die proud of having been an engineer. I hope all of you who are professionals want to die proud of whatever you've been. That can only happen if the engineering profession, the science profession, the technical profession exhibits gracious professionalism. So again, I'm going to harp on that. It has to be an underpinning for all the stuff that we're talking about doing. Now, education is absolutely an important part of that. It's really important. It is, in fact, in crisis. Right now, more than 50% of the people under 20 are, in the world's population, more than half the folks are under 20 years old. If we were going to educate those folks with university educations, we would have to launch a new large university every week. Do you remember the one that was started last week? Or this week? Or do you? Art Modell meant that. They're a multi-billion-dollar engineering feat that's named after someone who can hit a rock with a stick, who happens also to have been somewhat of a jerk, according to what everyone said. I didn't know the man or know the man. But there are literally thousands of people in the Boston area who did things that really mattered. Now, like Dean and like Andy, I love sports. I like doing them more than watching them. But we've gotten a little out of touch with what is really important. How did this happen? You need a better example. So I think in order to shift things, to get back on track, we are facing a new Cold War. And it's a serious one, like the last one. Now, we can get there through more education and more effective education. I want to say a little bit about both. This model of life is moot. It doesn't work anymore. It's not divided into these periods. Education is part of your life from womb to tomb. You have to keep doing it all along. So the whole model is shifted. More efficient education is also necessary because there is lots of information that says it's sort of not working the way it is and the way we're doing it now. I'm about to ask you to watch a 40-second video clip from a BBC program called Simple Minds. The BBC is not exactly radical yellow journalism. They do careful stuff. It breaks my heart for you to see this, but watch.
IT have been right through the system of public assessment. But what real understanding do the creme de la creme have of basic principles if they can't work out how to light a bulb with a battery?
Do you have any idea why it's not working?
Battery could be dead, the bulb could be bad, I'm hooking it up totally incorrectly. I'm not an electrical engineer, I'm a mechanical engineer.
Oh my God.
It's a very curious thing about science.
Can you imagine how much that breaks my heart? She's a very good student. If she'd had 2 wires, a battery and a bulb, it would have probably been okay. But the schematic world didn't quite map, so it didn't stick. She didn't have ownership of that intellectual idea. We have to fix that. One of my doctoral students, Ben Linder, is doing a thesis on estimation. This is data, I don't expect you to be able to read it, but this is data from 200 seniors in mechanical engineering from the top 6 of the top 12 universities. Seniors in mechanical engineering asked to do a simple estimation problem, estimate the energy content of a 9-volt transistor battery. One person guessed it right. The one that sticks out left the old image of it. Perry's book was published in the 50s. It points out that in the model of intellectual development in the college years, you go through a sag. You first come out of a system that is mostly dual. The professors write there's black and white answers, everything's clean and simple. You go through a period of anxiety about there being ambiguity in the world, and then you finally understand that you can take off intellectually. These guys did a bunch of studies and claimed that people that graduated from liberal arts schools like Harvard ended up on the upswing, and all the engineering graduates ended up in the bottom of the sack. I don't like that message. I don't believe it all, but there is some information there. Folks in technical professions must get exposed to the whole breadth of making things happen. I will read you this. My copy has been taken. Here's Edward Baird, coming downstairs now. Bump, 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 in the back of his head behind Krista Robin. It is, as far as he knows, the only way of coming downstairs. Sometimes he feels there really is another way. That's what's happened to those of us in education. We're so busy getting on with today's business that we've lost sight of the need to change the picture altogether. There are lots of folks who are saying that things are going to change in rather dramatic ways. My colleague Michael Tussos has said what will be. In fact, being aggressive enough. I think much bigger changes are going to occur. Talk and talk is essentially dead. We're just having an extended wait for it. I think the kind of things that go into education are going to shift rather dramatically. And there are some very wise folks around the world that are thinking quite seriously about it. Dr. Lorillard writes very convincingly in this book that derives from her research about a new model of education that makes a distinction between knowledge transfer and thinking. Thinking is the real high-gain thing. If we don't get that message, my colleagues don't like seeing this slide, this idea, but I think it's true. We're going to have our job taken away from us. Now, to me, the really high-value, high-margin thing is informed, creative thinking. A lot of creative people out there that are not informed, a lot of informed people that are not creative. There are informed, creative people that are not thinking. And I have all three together to make it work. And I think the way you get there is by thinking, doing, sharing, and reflecting. And you do that with elegant tools in a celebratory environment. And if we can, we will end up with smart, creative, well-educated, ethically solid, energetic citizens. So, to me, the first competitions are a microcosm of what education's future will be. The thing that you're about to do has all of those components in it, and it's wonderful. We've been trying similar things for a long time. My hair be a better ponytail. That's about in 1970. We were beginning to do contests. We have done competitions. We've done teams of 1 and teams of 25. And over the years, I think we've learned some things. And if you talk about learning things, you have to use philosophers as your backing. Dean claims that Scott Adams is one of the 20th century's greatest philosophers. I will read you this because some bits got lost. Wally and I came up with a great new product idea. Inspiration alert, in effect, danger, new idea. The little speaker says, state your idea now, and above Dilbert's head is the crush-o-matic. He's saying to Wally, you tell it. One of the things that we have to do is have a creative self-image that will survive these kinds of assaults, because they will occur over and over and over. Einstein had it right. It is very, very important to be creative, and in this process, history says that you can almost guarantee that the young folks will be more creative than the older folks. So we need to listen very carefully to them. One of my feelings is that pressure is a very, very important part of creativity. The most creative things I do because I'm under pressure, because I have to. Now, there are extremes. Depend upon it, sir. A man knows he's to be hanged in a fortnight. It concentrates his mind wonderfully. Maybe that's an overstatement. I don't think it's quite that harsh. In fact, I think it's very important in this context to make sure that the young people who are establishing their own creative self-identity know that you're still going to love them if something doesn't work. If they don't have that idea, they will be afraid of their own creative impulses. Forgiveness is very important, not only for those guys that you were just talking about, but for yourself. Robin argues that a bold choice for a peaceful heart, a way that before. Another thing that will turn out to be very important is emotional intelligence. I don't know exactly, I've read Goldman's book. I don't understand it fully, but I do know there is something there. Intelligence is. Eight's a big number for me, but I believe in that idea very much. And I think a condensed version that's certainly true is that there are at least these three. All of us will learn more about ourselves and about nature and about others. Now, we think we know quite a bit about learning about nature because we think it's causal and stuff. We think that Mother Nature applies all of her rules all of the time. And that theoretically makes things nice and easy. It also is very scary because with the folks around you, that will be obvious as part of the process. 1995, Procter & Gamble, Aiken High School. This is a 1-minute, 30-second clip that will give you some feelings about getting to know yourself and others.
I see a big difference in the way people interact this year than from last year. Last year it took us a long time to build any kind of relationship with each other. I think this year that relationship is already there. I feel very, very close to a lot of these kids.
I expected the engineers to be like real smart and brainy people that didn't talk to people like me. And they turned out not to be. Turned out to be regular.
The best time for me is Saturday when I can sit down at lunchtime and sit down with the kids, talk about stuff other than U.S. First, find out what they like to do, and I can talk about me a little bit. And so then you start, once you know them a little bit better, then you start warming up, and by the end, you're pretty good friends.
Relationship real good because they're not dictators, they're easygoing, and they like people, and they treat us like we're people.
I mean, I've never been in a situation where people have accepted me so openly, and I just, it's great. There's nothing like being accepted for who you are.
It's not just a school thing, like the presentation at the faculty meeting today, or at the big presentation the first Baxter Bomb Squad did after Disney World last year that made me, well, a lot of us actually, apply for the team this year. And it's not just a Baxter thing, like when some of us went to the Employee Appreciation Day. It's totally a Mountain Home thing, like those kids at the library this summer with the first 2-minute warning, and the elderly at the senior center. Then all these groups we actually invited to Baxter to see the game court and everything. Harry, Court, and Stewart really did a good job fielding the Rotary Club's questions. Oh, those little kids from special ed and Montessori, they were so cute, and they had so much fun. Probably the nicest thing we've done as a team so far, though, is when we had Jinx over to help them to get a feel for the first, since this is the rookie year. We were the rookies last year, after all. First, really, it's more than math and science, when you think
about it, because there's so many other aspects involved.
As you can see, all ages, dependent of schools, saying gracious professionalism in a slightly different way.
Some of these young people that we will touch will be the true leaders of tomorrow. If we don't instill in them the kinds of values and the kinds of expectations and the ability to make commitments that go beyond themselves, then eventually we all have less than what we should have.
And that's that it really is making a difference.
So all of that was about, what that means. Now,
they have built a robot, but not any robot. This is a robo-athlete that's going to get some play in a national contest.
7 News reporter Allison Camerata tells us now this technology game is helping the students score in real life.
For the past 6 weeks, these Plymouth North High School students have been acting like mad scientists, staying up late, creating a robo-athlete who they hope will conquer 149 other robots in a national competition.
The robot's a metaphor. It's actually a physical, three-dimensional metaphor for what we're trying to accomplish. What's really happening here is a new way to educate children.
The contest is sponsored by a nonprofit group called FIRST, which tries to excite kids about science and technology and apparently succeeds.
You'll see a couple parts and you say, well, I can put this one with this one and we can make this cool thing happen. And it's almost like, it's kind of like a kid at Christmas.
And now you are about to see a worldwide exclusive. We're getting the first glimpse ever of the Blue Eagle 3. The students have kept it under wraps until now because they didn't want any other school to see how their robot accomplished the goal of putting tubes on a target. But now that all the robots have been completed, it's safe to reveal their trade secrets.
It has the ability to write itself.
This is a trick that you think that yours might be unique in.
It's an advantage that we feel we have, absolutely.
This is how the whole project started, just as a simple model designed to help the kids visualize how the robot will place inner tubes on its target. Now, if you're wondering what any of this has to do with real life, well, as the kids explained, they see a very clear connection.
You know what it's like to be in the pinch of a situation, try to get this thing running and up, and problems happen, and you have to get this all done at once, and it shows real life situations.
Their first stop is state competition on March 14th. Then where's the Blue Eagle 3 off to? Well, Disney World, of course, for the national competition. From Plymouth, Allison Camerata, 7 News.
And good luck. That's 7 News at 5. I'm Kim Casey.
I'm Jonathan Hall. Next at 7 News at 5:30.
So there's a lot of stuff happening there. You know, like web, and do a search on something like large group skills. I got tens of thousands of searches, hits, and had to winnow down. But things like the Kirsty temperament test are there, free to use. There's lots of stuff that you can use to help structure the way you run things. But obviously, Covey had it right when he talked about ourselves, but the most important thing is to keep the most important thing the most important thing. Easily said. Einstein pointed out that wisdom is knowing what is the most important thing. But if you can get your group to focus and have a shared mission, then you're in better shape. We have learned over the years that people coming into a group design project don't understand about, for example, meetings. Meetings are complex things. They're not social events. We tell the students that they're at least as intellectually intense as taking a quiz. And that's not the way folks that first go to meetings think about them. They think it's a time to go sit and relax and let other people do the work. A meeting and a brainstorming session are very different things. Make sure that they understand that. It's important that someone own both brainstorming session and a meeting so that they're responsible for the schedule and the outcome, etc. Those of you who've been doing that for years know that. Meetings are things where you get together and you reach consensus, and that's kind of hard. Making a decision is a little bit harder. The real 500-pound gorilla is getting buy-in. And we miss that so often. We make a decision and split without making sure that everybody is comfortable with, have you done this? Is this okay? Are you willing to never look back? Are you going to ever say, yeah, you just done it like I knew how to do it, but you guys went off another way. You have to get buy-in and have everybody join you on the trajectory. Also, making people understand that a surprise no-show is an unpardonable sin. You just can't do that. You can't treat other people that way. Being late is a very similar thing. It ends up being closely related to trust. You get to the point where you can give someone an assignment or you can reach mutual agreement that you're going to do something, and both parties trust that it will happen. And that's a very important part of the process. It's a very important part of gracious professionalism. Now I'd like to have Mike Bastoni come up and spend a few minutes telling you about some of the things that he thinks is very important about their experiences.
Thank you very much, Mike. I'll make this quick. About less than 100 miles southwest of here, and maybe less than 100 years ago, a teacher nailed up a peach basket in an auditorium. And today we have the NBA, but incredibly, at almost the exact same time, a gentleman by the name of Robert Goddard was mixing gasoline and liquid oxygen. And Andy Allen got to buy that ticket. So today, what I want to say to everybody here, myself included, is that we're nailing the peach basket up this afternoon, and we're mixing the oxygen and the gasoline. And you need some help to do it. Unfortunately, Is that slide back up there? We don't need me up there, we need that slide up. Thank you. You need some help to do it, so I want you to make friends with each other. I've got some wonderful friends here. Some really special people who got me involved in this, and got our team involved in this, and got our community involved in this. I've got some very special parents, some very special students, some very special teachers, some very special engineers from Boston Edison. And so that synergy that comes together when those special people get together because they pay attention to their feelings, they pay attention to who's who and what's what, keeps the energy going, and then we share that with people like Osman Sylvania and our friends from Nitro, and then something really special happens. That's a magazine article from Taj Magazine. It's a Design and Technology and Education magazine. It's a recent issue. It was written by one of our students, Allison Burgess. It's about a little thing we do in the summertime called Rumble of the Road. Thank you so very much, because as Dean said, it's the Little League, and it's okay. Because the Little League leads to the Big League, and that's what you're creating today, you're creating the Big League. So to the friends that came to Rumble at the Rock, to the people that helped make it happen, to the very special people in my community, and to all of you, thank you all very much. What do you think?
Thank you very much, Mike. They have a fantastic program there. I'd like to introduce Vince Wolzelinsky, and he's going to talk about having written this guide, which all of you will receive today, some of the things that he thinks very important about the process.
I'm incredibly delighted and honored to be speaking to this group, the leaders of this national movement known as FIRST. My first bit of advice is simple. Keep your eye on the ball. There's a lot happening here today. There's going to be more happening when you get back home, and even more when you near the ship date. Throughout it all, keep your eye on the ball. Despite all else that will happen, keep focused on what you're trying to do. Inspire youth. The goal is not to have the best machine that can score the most points. It's not to have the most sophisticated control system. It's not about building the best robot. FIRST is all about inspiring youth. That is the ball you need to keep your eye on. To keep focused on what this is all about, you need to understand you're not just building a machine, you are building a team. To inspire youth, you need a machine that works, and you need a team that works. Today we're starting with a bucket of bolts. In 6 weeks, we'll transform these unrelated components into a working machine. Today we're a collection of bodies. In 6 weeks, we'll transform ourselves into working teams. Neither of these are easy, but both are fun. Along the way, things will happen. Sometimes, parts of your machine and parts of your team will fit together perfectly the first time that they're brought near each other. Sometimes the parts will need machining to get them to work together. And sometimes, despite your best efforts, parts of the machine and parts of your team have to be scrapped. Along the way, your final product will endure periods of severe stress. Things will break. Things will need to be repaired. But remember, often the repaired component can be the strongest component of the final design. The team aspect of this thing is really the most complex in the race to create the working robot. Everyone wants a machine that works, but not everyone has the same vision of what that machine should be. Everyone wants this motor for that purpose, but not always are those purposes the same. Everybody wants to be successful, but not always will everyone want to use the same roadmap to get there. As a leader, and that's what this audience is, the leader of this national movement of FIRST, you must be that very boss that you always wanted to work for but have not yet found. You need to take charge. You need to reach consensus. Make decisions quickly. Put people in their place when they need to be put there. Resolve conflicts, keep your eye on the clock, watch the calendar, and in the end, get the job done while keeping everybody happy. First is not about machines, it's about people. Keep your eye on the ball. You're not just building a successful machine, you're building a successful team. And to be a success, your machine must be able to play the game thanks to the work of your team. That's what will inspire the next generation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vince. Good advice. I'd like you guys to do a quick experiment. You're not writing. Big things moving fast, lots of forces. If you don't build it robustly, it will not survive. Because of your feedback, notice that this year the maximum dimension in one direction is 30 inches. We'll go through a door. The location of the center of gravity is very important. The rap show made those points wonderfully. Also, we are now at the point, I used to argue that you can't be heavy and fast. Well, I think you can now. As you get through this stuff and the power that's available in that battery. One time it double hits. So down to the detail level, with key clamp hardware, remember, set screws suck. The issue there is think hard about your drivetrain. Make sure that you don't have the motors that you're going to be using to drive this stuff could drive a drill and drill a big hole in a piece of steel. Think about what that means about a fragile little set screw that's in the critical path between the source of energy and making the thing move. So make sure that your most fragile and vulnerable parts are out on the end of the chain. Make sure you have something that does in fact move. It's very frustrating to have a very elegant machine that runs in a circle right in the starting area. So I know many of us have been there. It's hard. Now, you've heard a lot of stuff this morning. The downside to enlightenment is that once you understand how the universe works, you can't play dumb. So you know what you're supposed to do. You can't play dumb. I'll go back to Ruby to close. He says some wonderful things, I think. Judge a moth by the beauty of its candle. You've heard a lot of people talk about the beauty of the candle. You're going to be judged by the beauty of the candle, so enjoy that and make sure that you do everything you can to enhance the beauty of the candle. Thank you.
The excitement stuff. Some of the kids that I've talked to in the past said they got interested in FIRST because they had a chance to go to Disney World. Well, and you look at it and say, well, I wish you joined FIRST for some other reason. But the reality of it is that's what some of them do, and that's one of the enticements. And the celebration is part of the enticements. Once we get them on board, it's easy to get those subliminal messages out to them, and when they come out of it all, science is cool. No matter how you get to the start, once you get on the team or once you get involved, science is cool, and that's what we're after. You know, we're still working. We're working very hard. We're busy. They're doing things they've never done before with nonprofits. So this is kind of a new and different experience for them. We're really striking up a partnership with them. We're still having our growing pains, so we're not perfect there yet, but we're working on it. We're working on it very hard. We've got an exciting future ahead of us, and they and FIRST are very committed to making the partnership work. We still need the feedback from you all because it will get more and more challenging as the years go on. How we're going to deal with 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 teams, and how we're going to get them all down to Epcot Center, I don't know. But we're going to figure something out. Or it may end up being like the NCAA's, where we have to figure out a different way to do it. We don't know the answers there yet. We're going to have to go through that process to get there. But we certainly will. But one thing is for sure, we're growing. We're taking over the place, at least in the Epcot. We have to build a third stage this year. We have over 150 teams signed up to go to Epcot this year. The only way we could figure it out was either the kids had to spend a week out of school to 2 weeks out of school so we could get everybody through the program. We didn't want to cut the program down. So we're going to have a lot going on at the same time. 3 stages going on simultaneously is going to be pretty impressive down there. Well, without further ado, let me introduce Sam Williams and she can chat briefly for you.
Congratulations. It's great to see how contagious FIRST is, but that's no surprise to me. It really is such a great cause, and it's great to see so many people involved. It's great to see how much FIRST continues to grow and grow and grow. And Dean, I'm not calling Uncle yet. Today I want to share some information with you that will help you in your planning after the regionals when you get to Epcot for the national championships. And probably in that planning process, there's one person that's very, very key to the different teams in terms of collecting and distributing information. That is that one person that you'll designate as the team representative that will be responsible for coordinating all communications with Walt Disney World. This person will collect the deposits for all of the reservations and submit one check for the team. They'll also send in a complete rooming list with names, addresses, ages, arrivals, and departure times. It's also important for this team representative to pay key attention to some of the dates. For instance, February 11th will be the last day that you will be able to make reservations because we have so much demand on our rooms this year. So on February 12th at 8:00 a.m., all unreserved rooms will be released. The rooms are not going to be reserved unless a deposit has been received. And that's just so that we make sure that we have enough rooms for everyone, and we're making smart business decisions as well. We're asking that you complete a rooming list by March 25th, and if your rooming list isn't complete by then it is difficult for us to ensure that you won't have any delay at registration, so that date is really important. Luggage assistance will be available. For those of you who booked at the Disney's All-Star, we're asking that you pre-arrange your luggage assistance 30 days prior to your arrival. If you're not at the Disney All-Star, which is where the largest block of rooms will be, you can arrange your luggage assistance at the time of your arrival. In 1995, which was my first year actually managing the event for FIRST, we had 1,800 participants, and we were able to have the competition inside of Epcot. Many of you will remember it was at the American Adventure. By last year, it had grown so much, which was fabulous. We were able to create a temporary complex at the main entrance of Epcot, the Epcot Arena. And I think many of you really enjoyed how centralized that was. This year, we're expecting anywhere from 8,000 to 10,000 participants to actually be at Epcot. And yet again, we will have, as Andy just mentioned, the Epcot Arena built. So you will have a centralized location, and it will be bigger than it's ever been before. But also with that comes some changes as we continue to grow together. And Epcot is committed to the growth of FIRST. First, one of the changes that you'll experience this year is we were unable to get all of the rooms for FIRST on the Walt Disney World property. But we did set out, because FIRST is so important to us and so worthwhile, to get resort rooms at our Walt Disney World Good Neighbor hotels, which are hotels within 5 to 10 minutes travel time to Walt Disney World. So as many of you noted, because many of you made your reservations already, we will have packages that include rooms on and off the Walt Disney World property. But our intention is to make sure that regardless of whether you're staying at a Walt Disney World resort or a Walt Disney World Good Neighbor resort, that your experience is seamless. And all of the packages will include hotel accommodations, and if you're on a 4-night package, it will include a 5-day all-in-one pass, which includes not only the theme parks, but the Disney water parks, as well as Pleasure Island. Breakfast coupons, lunch coupons, as well as transportation and a commemorative gift. One of the other things that we've introduced for the first time are moderate resorts. At Walt Disney World, you've noticed in your package information that we have Caribbean Beach, Dixie Landing, as well as Coronado Springs, which is the newest resort at Walt Disney World. All of the package information that I will be showing you will be included in your competition rule book, so you don't have to take notes on this information. We have, as well as a 4-night package, we also have a 3-night package that will also be available to you. In addition to the information on the packages, there has been something that probably isn't going to be as popular with you. We have had a price increase in our youth ticket. That's always not a very popular thing, and we realize that, but our goal going forward is to try to maintain the pricing structure for you as closely as possible, and I know that's been challenging in this last year. Finally, many of you have asked about inviting some of your families for an extended vacation period. We will have a spectators package, and the spectators package will include everything that the participant package includes, but it's meant for those that are not necessarily participating on the teams, but just are coming for an added vacation or as family members to watch the competition. And I'm showing you the different prices and the package information. I want to take just a moment to talk about the Good Neighbor Hotels, because that might be new information to some of you. About 3 years ago, Walt Disney World experienced quite a bit of growth, and we were unable to accommodate all of our groups on Walt Disney World property for their stay during a competition or a group activity. So we set out to build a relationship with some of the surrounding resorts, and you'll see 11 listed here that are going to be a part of your package. We really have a great working relationship with these resorts, and these resorts have been a part of our family for now over 3 years. So it is a benefit that we think is great and will help us continue to grow with you. I also want to give you some additional information on the package. If you are staying at a Good Neighbor Resort or any Walt Disney World resort, you will be able to pick up your packages at the hotel in which you're staying. The main event hospitality center will be located at the Disney's All-Star Resort, and that we will have orientations there on April 1st and 2nd to give you information about the competition and the latest agenda for the weekend. For transportation, just like in the past, you will make arrangements for your airport pickup and return, and that those arrangements will be made by each team. But we are planning still to, for all of the Walt Disney World resorts as well as the Walt Disney World Good Neighbor resorts, provide transportation to and from the competition each day and after the wrap party on Saturday night. There will be a schedule that we will print. We have a tentative one out at the information table today, but we will be finalizing those arrangements in the near future. Meal coupons, you'll have breakfast and lunch meal coupons. We will have hot options for the breakfast coupons. You may redeem your breakfast coupon at a Walt Disney World Resort food court, or if you are at a Walt Disney World Resort Good Neighbor Hotel, you will be able to redeem the coupons at the Epcot Arena or inside Epcot. The commemorative gift, although we've not finalized that yet, in the past we've had t-shirts, we'll give you a voucher in your package that you may be able to redeem the voucher for that commemorative gift either at the orientation at the Disney's All-Star or at the Epcot Arena. One other great thing that has happened this year is that for the first time, Epcot will be hosting a science and technology almost month-long celebration. And the finale to that 23-day event is the first competition. So for the first time, we're actually spending almost $100,000 to actually market that first is going to be at Epcot to the Central Florida area. So that means for the first time, we will invite guests to come out and be exposed to what is a fabulous product and a fabulous competition first. So you'll get people that are in the neighborhoods and that are in the Central Florida area coming out to see the competition because we think it's a word worth spreading. You will not need a badge to actually access the competition area. But for the party, the wrap party on Saturday night, we will give you a badge to access the wrap party inside of Epcot Future World West on the Saturday night. And the wrap party is a time for you to celebrate, so well deserved. And so we're looking forward to hosting that. A brief look at the itinerary for the weekend. On Thursday, April 2nd, there will be practice rounds. Friday, April 3rd, opening ceremony with the seeding matches. Saturday, April 4th, opening ceremonies, the double elimination, finals, closing ceremony, and then the wrap party that I mentioned, which will be inside of Epcot. The actual schedule is being worked on by First, and I'm sure they'll distribute it to you as soon as they have it done. If many of you haven't made your reservations, here's the number that's printed up here. This information, again, is also in your competition rule book. Reservations were able to be made as early as Monday, December 15th of last year, And there's good news. We have reservations planning available Monday through Saturday this year. Last year we only had Monday through Friday, so there's an extra day of planning. In closing, I wanted to take just a few moments to talk about our commitment, Walt Disney World commitment to FIRST. As FIRST continues to grow, so does Epcot's commitment to FIRST. We are so committed, in fact, that we feel that Epcot is a great venue with an existing brand reputation for science and technology programs. We contribute over $1 million to make that temporary arena work, and we've never done that for any other group. FIRST is the largest youth group that we have, and is so valued because it aligns so much with the mission of Epcot, celebrating highest in human achievement in science and technology. This arena this year will be over 300,000 square feet, temperature controlled, with all of the personnel, including enhancements in the machine shop, as well as we will fund the ceremonies and, of course, the wrap party. This year, as Andy mentioned earlier, we're doing things that, quite honestly, this is our first year taking it to this next level. For the first time, Walt Disney World will be sponsoring a team. We're also developing a recruiting plan because we realize that we want more teams on board with FIRST in the Florida area. So this team will actually go out and we're going to develop a marketing and recruiting plan to get more teams on board with FIRST. Earlier this year, we produced a marketing videos so that FIRST can take it out to the schools and the companies in order to enlist them on the cause of FIRST. And then finally, at the end of summer this year, we placed in the Epcot's Discovery Center, which is where our educators and millions of guests pass through to get information. We have an informational kiosk there that has FIRST information and also invites the guests to come back to see the FIRST competition in April. And then I have some really fabulous news. Just recently, we've committed to, for this year, 2 4-year scholarships for Florida schools to be given to FIRST participants. So we're really I can only assure you that we are so excited to host FIRST again in April. We want to host FIRST again and again and again. And we're not yet ready to cry uncle. I'll see you in April.
Two scholarships are fabulous. We need to get more and more companies doing more and more of that, and more and more universities doing more of that. One of the tough things I came across last year was I was talking to a young lady who talked about how she turned around her life, and she was in the inner city school. And she just really wanted to be an engineer more than anything else. The problem was, of course, when she got all excited about it and finished up her senior year, she just wasn't going to be able to afford going to college. So the more universities that we get on board, and we're working on it very hard, we don't think it really takes that much for them to give out some scholarship awards. And a lot of them are recognizing the fact that kids that are on FIRST teams are worth getting to the schools. So we've seen quite a few scholarships awarded, and there's more to come. Next, I want to introduce, Dean and I already talked about Autodesk. They did a presentation for us yesterday and talked about the software. And of course, everyone's getting an opportunity to use the software. And I'm going to introduce Laura London, who's going to get a chance to come up here and talk about Autodesk.
Good morning, everybody. I just said to Dean that I wanted to thank him for his gracious words about Autodesk and about what we like to do in partnership with FIRST, and now I'm really nervous because typically Dean is hanging me out to dry in front of some public group. And even though I've gotten over the one occasion on which I thought I was going to cry, I now have sort of an uneasy feeling that it's just a matter of time before the other shoe drops and I'm asked for something and put on the spot to produce. But Be that as it may, the team at first asked me, because we've been around for a while, to share just a couple of insights from my personal perspective and our company perspective about the learning opportunities that come with FIRST. So I had 4 quick points. One of them is very personal. It was really the first notion that I had that you could learn from the experience, little experiences in this big experience. And it was my first national championship, and I was sitting up toward the front, and there had been this really nice gentleman on my right, cheering and making comments and kind of bantering back and forth with me. And at one point he turned and he said, "I should introduce myself. My name is Paul Allaire, and I'm with Xerox and with FIRST." And I had this sort of knot in the pit of my stomach because I recognized that Paul Allaire is the chairman CEO of Xerox, also leads the board at FIRST. I had never met our chairman of the board, but I was so excited that here I was sitting next to, as the gentleman from Aiken in the videotape said, a really regular guy. And I went back and I told everybody at our company, I don't know our chairman, but I've met the chairman of the board at Xerox. A regular guy, bound in this experience of FIRST. And I called my mom, I called my dad, I said, guess what, you'll never believe it. Look for those experiences because you don't know who's sitting next to you. And I'm by nature a pretty shy person, so I'm typically not the first person to put my hand out and say hello. I would really encourage you to get over that. It's an inhibition that I try to get over, and it will really pay off in the context of this process. One of the other things that I've learned is to really look for the little things you learn, not necessarily the big light bulb. I'm from the San Francisco area, and whenever I come to Boston, one of the many idiosyncrasies about the Northeast, and as a Californian, I can tell you folks, Californians are not the only nuts folks here in the country. It must be a coastal thing, because Northeasterners have their own happy eccentricities. And I love looking at, they're pleasurable, but the Boston Globe, for those of you who take it for granted, has this incredible masthead that for years on business trips I would collect. Because up above the weather, on the right-hand corner, there's always some wacky rhyme about the weather. And on the left-hand side of the masthead, it gives you a number of pages and tells you the cost of the paper. And I have a background in media and marketing, and it is one of the few overt places in the universe in which a medium will attempt to help you calculate the value of it. Now, admittedly, it's not on content, it's just on volume, but I love watching that ratio of pages to 50 cents. It's a pretty interesting little thing. And if you apply that ability to look for little things in your teammates, little comments that become great ideas, little mistakes that pay off and become wonderful inventions, I think you'll find that there's a lot to be learned from the little things. Don't wait for something big to happen. It's a cumulative effect. I'd like to mention as a third point that we also learn by doing. You all are going to be right there in the front lines. It's a very large and long front line. And what we in the education department at Autodesk have really learned a lot from is just by doing it. We've been involved with FIRST for a number of years, and we've been happy to grant software. At about 1 o'clock, there are 2 tables down at the foot of the steps on the left. And those of you who have filled out the grant form, the application form in your checkout kits for software, we're happy to grant you a copy of Mechanical Desktop, a copy of 3D Studio Max to your education team participants to see if that helps the design process. We like to think those tools will help. We're happy to sponsor the Autodesk Award again. It's an award that you can read about in the rulebook. It's really presented on the basis of a submitted 30-second animation. It's a lot of fun. It's a great way for students to get involved, students who might not otherwise be involved in the competition. We have some fun things that we like to bring to the process because we do think there's fun in the doing of FIRST. So there's a screensaver that for those of you who are using any kind of technology can get off the FIRST website. You can download that. And yeah, it's kind of fun to muck around with, or frankly, when you have those moments of just staring into space, take a look at that. And we have something that is a new piece of the program we try to put together, and that is something that we're calling the Design Your Future Award. There's information about that in your checkout kits as well. And it's a scholarship award, a very small scholarship award, I will tell you, that we'd like to present to a young woman from a middle school or a high school, as well as present to that middle school or high school. It's a small cash award so that the school can in fact develop or maintain a program to recruit and retain young women involved in participating in FIRST. And the young girl will be able to use a cash award to reimburse her. 2, 3. Got it? Okay, thanks very much.
We're not done yet. If you came to the seminar yesterday, we did the wave.
All right.
All right. So we're going to do it again because I know everyone wants to be real excited and we're inspired. And this is going to mean the wave of inspiration. Start over here. We're going to go all the way over there.
I understand yesterday that we missed, some of us missed the top 10 reasons for being involved with FIRST. We thank Laura for those as well. Now I'd like to bring up Ken Lambert and Eric Rasmussen, and we're going to talk about some of these things and some of the things that are in the kit, so we're getting closer to the brass tacks part. Because they've put in a huge amount of time on putting together the contest and the kit and the control system, etc. So, guys.
Great, thank you, Morty. Let's get into why we all came here, the kit, and later on the field. As you know, as many of you know, the FIRST engineers try to put together a kit that represents many of the basic engineering systems. And one of these is a pneumatic system, which this year we've come up with a great pump that basically puts out about 30 psi, so we're hoping everybody will get a chance to use it. And really, this is one of the systems that has been not used as much as we like, so this year I think we'll see a lot of use out of it and some great things. Like a robot needs, we've got plenty of wire for you to use with all the electronics and sensors that we're providing and the motors and whatnot. Also, we've got a hardware bag and a little hardware system that has springs and hinges and pivots and folding table braces and all kinds of things to put your robot together with. We've got, as many of you know, we've got our remote controls, our radios, 2 Arnets, and this year we put in, as you see in the background, a ground plane to help the reception. We hope it's going to be great. We've got many actuators this year, more than last year, to really help the robot move, to pick up things, and to reach great heights. There's our control, part of our control system. We got a programmable receiver, so we hope to see a lot of automation out of that. We've got a transmitter, you see our joystick, so have fun with that. Plenty of motors. We've got 4 different kinds of motors there, a drill motor, a brand new van door motor. We hope that gets a lot of use and should provide everybody with a lot of power. Beware, it should really get your robot moving. Plenty of sensors and controllers that you can put on your robot to really find out where you're going and control those motors. We've got Velcro and many other fasteners that you guys can use to hold your robot together. And bearings and to make the robot move a little bit more smoothly. And last but not least, documentation. Please read it. A lot of your answers to your questions are in that. but please don't hesitate to call us at any time. Lastly, I'd like to introduce Eric and get into the control system, and Eric's going to take it from here.
Okay, well, I'm going to introduce this in the assumption that there's a lot of rookies here, so I'm just going to start from the beginning. Basically, all these robots that you're going to be building are controlled by a remote control system that's two main halves, the transmitter side and the receiver side. The transmitter side is what the drivers will use to tell the robot what to do, and the receiver side is all the nifty devices that you get to use to actually make it do its thing. Now, we're going to connect these power up to, just excuse me for a moment here. Okay, now on the transmit side for the drivers, you've got two joysticks which have an X and a Y axis and also a third analog axis here that's a thumb wheel. You've also got a number of switches that you can use, rocker switches and potentiometers that you can mount on this project box here. The robots are designed, for those that don't know, for two drivers. Typically one will steer the robot around the playing field while the other one actuates arms, legs, whatever kind of other mechanisms are on the robot. And what we're going to do now is we're going to demonstrate some of the various mechanisms that are included in the kit of parts to give you an idea of what you can do with them. And we've got a number of humorous prompts to illustrate the purposes. So, pardon me while I grab the control panel here. Okay, now one of the parts that we came up with last year, and we're having it again this year because it was very popular, is called a window lift mechanism, and it's basically what you get in an automobile to raise and lower your electric windows. And we've got a space shuttle on that to commemorate our new president, Andrew Allen. And here you can see it blasting off as it travels up and down the track. If you are observant, you'll also notice that there's a switch at the top of the track, a limit switch there. That is one of the sensor systems that can be used to automatically disable the motor from proceeding too far forward. You could use this on the robot to prevent mechanisms from jamming up and so forth. So it'll automatically turn that off even though I'm still holding the button down telling it to go forward. Let's see. Another mechanism that's new this year is the seat positioning unit. We've got the rocket connected to that. You can see it lifting off slowly here. This is what you get in an automobile that would move your seat forward and backwards to get you in the right position to drive comfortably. It's a very nice, very, very strong mechanism where you connect the seat motor up to it with a flexible shaft, and it translates that into linear motion. And it's basically internally there's a worm reduction stage and then a rack and pinion system inside the track there. And as I mentioned, it's extremely strong. And there's two of those in the kit, so you can pair things up. The next thing that I'd like to show you is that there is a lead screw mechanism that is meant to adjust the back of your seat. We've mounted Woody's image on there, and you can extend it by turning another seat motor connected by a flexible shaft. Again, I've got this designed so that a limit switch will turn it off at the top of travel so that nothing binds up. And because we're always very conscious about safety, we want to make sure that Woody's got his safety glasses on here. So we've used this it's included in the kit to emphasize safety. Okay, now one of the new things in the kit this year is a much bigger and more powerful pump, and that's connected down at the bottom of the board here. That is used to supply air to the air cylinders and various pneumatic devices that you can place on your robot. I'm going to power that up. You can hear it's not that loud. What you can use it for is to power pneumatic cylinders here. Here we have the tennis ball mounted on the cylinder, moving up and down. There's a valve, there's actually two different types of valves included. Alright, hold on, I'm going to do that again so that you guys can take another look. Got the pump going, and again, if you watch the tennis ball near the top, you can switch on the valve to one of two different positions. You have a nice double-acting cylinder. You can move it either fully extended or fully retracted. And it's a pretty basic system. You can use it for whatever you think you need that kind of functionality for on your robot. Now, everything that I've showed you so far is basically an on-off type of an output. It's either moving full speed or it's not moving, or maybe it's moving in reverse. Some of the other things that you can do is there are electronic speed controllers that are reversible in the kit, and that allows you to have proportional speed control of some of your devices. I'm going to use the joysticks to control those motors. Okay, now to have a little fun here, we've got the flag mounted on a drill motor. The drill motor is the most powerful motor in the kit, and it's included. It comes with a gearbox. most teams ended up using those for drive motors last year because they allow the robot to move quickly. You can use them for whatever you want. But this year there's another pretty powerful motor that we've included in the kit, and that's the van door motor. This is on the some of the new automobiles have the remote control automatic door opening for your vans. And we've mounted a wheelchair wheel on here to give you an example. The output of it is not as fast as the drill because it is geared down more. And you can change that gear ratio however you feel is necessary. And again, you can operate it in both directions. And because it is connected to a speed controller, you can regulate the speed to where you'd like it to be. That's the control system in a nutshell. In terms of the output devices, there's a lot of information in the manual about it this year. I think that we put a lot of work into it. I think you'll find that there's a lot of good examples on how to hook things up and other things to make your life easy. If you still don't understand it after reading that, then give us a call. But I urge you to take a good look at the manual. I think it's pretty well written this year. One of the things that we haven't shown you today is that the fact that the receiver there is programmable, so that you could change, for example, when you press a button over here, what happens over there. You can also have it automate things for you, so that you could have some sensor on the robot detect some condition and automatically trigger an entire sequence of events rather than one simple action. And it's programmable and basic, so it's real easy to do. It's easy for people to learn it in a short amount of time, to come up with a good program to make sure it works as you expect before you go compete. It's based on the basic Stamp 2 processor from Parallax, which we used last year, and a lot of teams seem to like it. One of the improvements to the kit this year is we included a full programming manual in the kit rather than relying purely on the electronic documentation. So we hope you enjoy that. And yes, and one last change I almost forgot is this year, instead of having several NiCad batteries, we've gone to one large sealed lead acid battery. Now this battery is much more powerful than it has the NiCads in the past, and as a result, there's a very large fuse on the output of it to protect, hopefully, against short circuits. This battery, if you're not careful with it, can do a lot of damage, so please be careful when you're using it. Please always use the fuse, don't bypass it if you blow it. One of the nifty things about this battery is that you can actually place several matches on one battery charge. It's got that much capacity. So what we're going to be doing this year is we're actually going to let teams charge the batteries at their pit stations at an event up until the finals, when back-to-back matches are so close together that that's not feasible, and then we'll start providing fresh batteries. So you'll be responsible for your own power management, which will be part of the design of your robot, and the operation of it is then making sure you don't use too much that it gets drawn down. But you'll get 2 batteries, so you can swap them back and forth and keep things operating.
I'd like to add one more thing. Just please be careful when you're building your robots. We've got a lot of mechanisms here that are very strong, and we just don't want to get anybody hurt. We'd like to see everybody at our tournaments and at the finals. Good luck to everybody.
We're going to move from here. We're going to move from here, and you will follow signs. You'll go out, around, and the room. So what do you think, guys? Is it easy? Let's get a few of the basic rules. Let's get Kim and Eric out here. These guys know the whole thing inside and out, and they will correct Dean and I. I'd like to, Brian, come out. Sorry.
The first thing I have to ask you, by the way, is do not stand up. Because as soon as somebody in the front stands up, we're going to have an involuntary wave, and then nobody's going to see. When we're done with some simple explanations, when we're done, then you can all come up, but please just stay seated till then. And as Woody said, we'll go through some of the rules. I think that what worked really well last year is we made a couple of Stu-bots, some human robots, that can come up here and play the game. So after we explain a couple of the basic rules, we'll probably do one of those simulated events, and then we'll ask you all to come up. But please stay seated till we do.
So let's start with Ken. What are the scores? Point, and I'll announce numbers.
Any ball up here is going to be worth 3 points. 3. Any ball up here is worth 2 points. And any ball down here is worth 1. And as you can see, every team is going to start off not at 0, but at
And what's this thing in the middle?
The thing in the middle is basically only going to double your score. So if you have no balls on the outside goals and one ball in the middle, you still get 0. But if you have, say, one ball right here in the lower level and one in the middle.
If you're confident, you can put one of these in.
Well, if you get one in the middle, that would double your score. And if you get another one, that doubles your score again.
Okay, Ken, what are these 3 for?
These 3 balls right here are going to be for the human player. And he's allowed, or she's allowed, only 3 balls at any one time. That can be their own colors, or their team's colored balls, or the opponent's balls, but only 3.
Where can that human player be?
That human player can stand. That human player can stand anywhere in this zone right here. Basically a 5 by 3 foot zone. But that human player is allowed to reach over into the 3 by 5 foot zone in front of it to interact with the robot. But it's not allowed to go into that by touching it or falling into it or leaning on the walls or anything like that.
What's this area?
This area right here is for the drivers. It's called basically the control station. There are two student drivers allowed, as well as 3 coaches. They can be students or adults, but the drivers must be students. And they can stay within any of these confines of these lines.
Now, while Dean continues to interrogate you, I'm going to go find 6 volunteers.
We're going to go completely across the playing field. This year, therefore, we've assumed that you better build some very fast machines. We've also made build such that there can't be any more just 1 machine or 2 machines getting over the goal and locking it, because while you try to do that to one of these high points, diametrically opposed from you on the field will be 1 or 2 competitors that are eating your lunch. Also, people have tried to build very tall machines. Well, that's great, but if you try to get from this part of the field to that part of the field, and you have a slightly shorter machine, it's very easy. With a very tall machine,
shorter machine can move around.
Some disadvantages. We have in every way tried to ruin any consistency on strategies of machines that might have worked on other fields. We think that they probably won't work very well on this one. We have all our players.
Have to operate with 1 hand tied behind you. The controllers can shout commands to their robots and to the human player. The human player can pick up balls and throw them, whatever. So you understand your role? Ken, are you near a microphone? Tell him where he can stand.
Is he with the white team?
Yep.
Okay, the white robot needs to be over here. Right here is the white robot. The robot is going to be opposite of their human player.
In what area? How big an area?
An area just big enough for the robot to fit in. It'll be right underneath there. You will see it right here.
So you're red.
Is that where the machine start? You figure the machine start right there? Yeah. Each one starts under a goal? Yeah. You don't have to pop up anymore.
We're missing blue.
Where's that volunteer? One right here. Come. The blue volunteers were blue. Now, does everybody, you guys are thinking hard. You're trying to imagine what you're going to do. We're going to start clocking and wait 2 minutes. And at the end of that, we're going to assess the score. Now, the controllers, the robots should do what the controllers tell them to do, although sometimes robots will super when they will do try to obey what your control tells you to do. So think a little bit about what you think is commands, and by doing this, I think we're going to learn quite a bit about strategy.
Kick out the red and blue.
So,
one more thing that you need to understand to make the scoring and the refereeing a little bit less arbitrary, a little easier to understand, and to let the spectators this year be able to add a moment's notice of who's about what points.
Easy, Bildo.
If, in order to have points, it's not this extended projected volume that we use every year because that's hard to do. This is worth its 3 points if some part of the ball is touching